The universe has always been a place full of secrets. But imagine this for a moment, a massive eye in the sky suddenly blinking for the first time in millions of years. And what NASA's most powerful telescopes capture is not just light, not just dust, but the final heartbeat of a giant star tearing itself apart in silence. A moment that has never before been frozen in an image so clear, so haunting, that even scientists who study space every day felt a chill when they saw it. And now you and I are going to step into that image together, because the picture of a dying star's explosion is not just a scientific achievement, it is a story of life, death, rebirth, and cosmic mystery that connects directly to us in ways most people cannot even imagine. And as NASA released the first ever image of this supernova in its earliest explosive stage, many began to ask, what does it mean when a star dies? Why does it shine brighter just before fading forever? And is it possible that the echo of such an explosion can be felt across time and space, whispering warnings or messages we have not yet learned how to read? For what they captured was not a simple burst of light. It was a complex, swirling, expanding storm of energy that seemed alive. And when scientists magnified the image, they noticed strange patterns, filaments curling like ghostly hands, shadows that resembled broken wings, and in the very core, a glowing tear-shaped void that looked eerily deliberate, as though the universe itself had painted a symbol across the night. And that single frame taken by NASA instantly turned into a mystery so vast that no press release could fully explain it. Because this was not just the end of a star, it was also the beginning of countless new questions, and one of the first things experts said was that the star must have been at least 10 times the size of our sun, burning violently for millions of years until its own weight crushed its core, forcing a chain reaction of nuclear collapse so intense that the outer layers blasted outward at speeds beyond imagination, creating shockwaves strong enough to rearrange space itself. But the image revealed something else, something they did not expect, because normally in supernova we see chaos, fragments of gas and dust rushing into the dark. Yet here, in this picture, the explosion seemed almost organized, as if it were following a hidden design, an invisible architecture written into the very bones of the star. And that sense of design is what made so many people uneasy, because if nature is pure randomness, then why does this final breath of a dying star look like a message drawn in fire? And some astronomers whispered quietly that the shape of the explosion reminded them of ancient symbols found in symbols. Different cultures' spirals carved into rocks, star maps hidden in old manuscripts, patterns once worshipped as omens, and now suddenly appearing light years away in the corpse of a star. And while official NASA statements stayed focused on science, behind closed doors many researchers admitted they could not shake the feeling that the star was not just dying, it was trying to say something. But what could a star possibly tell us? What kind of cosmic language could exist between burning suns and small creatures like us? And perhaps the answer lies in the strange glow at the center of the image. Because unlike the outer edges that shone in predictable patterns, the center seemed to pulse as if it were alive, flickering with a rhythm too exact to be accidental. And when computer programs analyzed the pulses, they discovered repeating intervals, almost like beats, almost like a heartbeat, and some suggested it could be the birth of a neutron star or even a black hole. But others argued that the regularity was too precise, too controlled, as if it were not random physics but a signal. And suddenly the idea that NASA might have accidentally photographed the first message ever written in the death of a star no longer felt like wild imagination but like a genuine possibility. And to understand how heavy this discovery is, you need to remember that every atom in your body, your bones, your blood, the air you breathe was once made in the heart of a star that exploded billions of years ago, meaning that we are literally made of stardust. So when we look at the image of a star's death, we are in fact looking at the history of our own. Creation, a mirror of what birthed us, and perhaps also a warning of what could end us. Because stars like this will eventually burn out everywhere, including our sun one day, and when that happens, life as we know it will vanish. So this picture is not only the story of a distant star, it is a preview of our own future. But the strangest part is not even the beauty of the explosion, it is what happened after, because as NASA continued to observe the dying star, they noticed faint ripples traveling across space from it, like invisible waves pushing against the very fabric of reality. And the strange thing was that those ripples, when measured, were arriving almost in sync with signals already being tracked from other distant galaxies, as though stars were dying in chorus, as though across the universe multiple explosions were somehow linked, like candles being blown out in a pattern. And that pattern seemed to trace the shape of something enormous, something too vast for us to see. And the scientists who noticed this hesitated to share it widely because the idea that multiple stars separated by billions of light years could die in a synchronized way sounds impossible. Yet the data quietly suggests otherwise, and so what? Does this mean for us? What is this mysterious rhythm echoing across the cosmos, and is it random? Or is the universe itself a living organism trying to communicate through the deaths of its stars? And if so, why now? Why here? Why in our time? And the image of the dying star may hold a clue, because in the faintest corners of the picture, beyond the obvious brightness, subtle lines appear, as if two shadows are crossing, forming something like an X, and X has always been the human symbol for unknown, for treasure, for warning, for crossroads, and here it is, drawn in light, carved by the death of a star, staring back at us across unimaginable distance, almost daring us to look closer, almost daring us to understand. And the last word in NASA's official description was simple: beginning. Which is strange because we thought we were looking at an ending, but perhaps endings and beginnings are the same thing. Perhaps this star is not gone but transforming into something we cannot yet define, and perhaps the explosion is not silent after all. Perhaps it is speaking in a voice we do not yet know how to hear. But the question that burns now is whether we should listen, and if we do, whether we will understand the hidden meaning in the final shining breath of this star's mysterious explosion. And that meaning might be closer to us than we think. Perhaps closer than our own dreams, because when scientists look deeper into the data, they realize that the strange pulses coming from the dying star were not just repeating in some random fashion, but were actually echoing patterns they had once seen hidden inside the human brain's electrical activity. The firing of neurons, the very sparks that create thought, memory, and imagination, and suddenly the eerie possibility emerged that the universe itself might think in ways we barely understand. That perhaps stars are neurons of a greater cosmic brain, and their deaths are not the end, but the passing of information across a galactic network. And if that is true, then NASA's image is not only a scientific breakthrough, but also the first clue that we are living inside something alive, something that is watching, learning, remembering, and speaking to itself through the rise and fall of stars. And as this realization spread quietly among small circles of astrophysicists and philosophers, questions multiplied faster than answers. Because if the universe is conscious, then what role do we play? Are we just sparks of dust floating in a dream too vast to grasp, or are we participants, witnesses meant to notice these messages written in fire? And while these thoughts may sound poetic or even terrifying, the numbers were difficult to ignore, because when the rhythm of the pulses was mapped alongside human brain scans, the resemblance was almost perfect, like two songs played in harmony. One inside the skull and one across billions of light years, and that match was so unsettling that some scientists began to privately suspect the dying star was not only echoing the thoughts of the universe, but might somehow be linked to us directly. as though our minds and the stars were connected threads in the same tapestry, and this led to even more chilling questions. If stars think, do they dream? And if they dream, could their final explosion be the nightmare of something greater? An end we are meant to witness because it contains a secret written for us, and what if this secret has been shown to humanity before? Not through telescopes, but through myths, visions, and ancient stories that describe gods falling from the sky, cosmic battles, and bright lights ending worlds. Stories that cultures across the earth preserved without ever knowing they might have been watching the deaths of stars. And perhaps this is why ancient civilizations aligned their temples, pyramids, and stone monuments with the heavens, not just to measure time, but to read the universe's messages. And now, in our age of technology, NASA has captured in one image what those civilizations only guessed at the face of a dying star speaking across eternity. And within that image lies a code we have yet to crack, because as researchers enhanced the picture using filters and advanced imaging software, they began to see shapes hidden inside the gas clouds.